Hey guys, I had a student ask me about this hand that I posted in my Discord server, so I thought I would break down my reasoning in the hand and then take it from there. I open queens in the hijack. I get 3-bet by a good reg in the small blind to 10 big blinds, and you'll just have to take my word for it that queens is almost always calling here, so we call and we see a flop. And our opponent starts with this small bet. I've actually node locked the solver to put in a small bet here, but this is not the preferred size. I don't know exactly why the reg is doing this. I mean, I guess it's a simplification so that they don't feel like they have to play any checks, but um, if you typically see this formation, the out of position player bricks a lot, and then they have the advantage in all of the overpairs, and I have all of the bluff catchers like fives, sixes, sevens, eights, even tens is kind of bordering on a bluff catcher. And so when you have queens plus, you just sort of want to pile in. One thing that makes this spot a little bit different is that jacks and tens are actually getting a little bit iffy once they start piling compared to, like, say, cutoff versus small blind or button versus small blind. I mean, here the hand has 67% equity, and so if you call and you see a halfway sad turn, like, you're not exactly sure. So maybe this allows them to bet range. In game, I considered a raise. It turns out that the solver is not playing any raises. Although if we assume that our opponent is range betting this board, one thing we could do is we could take away check and see now if we're playing any raises. And so yeah, we probably are. No, still no raises. So fair play. I'm glad I didn't raise in game, given that it is not a thing. So yeah, we decided on call. But if you were ever gonna raise a hand, this hand makes a lot of sense. It could get called by tens, jacks, ace queen with the ace of clubs, flush draws, and ace king maybe with the ace of clubs or the king of clubs, and then ace king of diamonds. So there are some worse hands that can call, and then you deny equity from, like, ace jack of hearts or something that's range betting. In general, if you're going to raise a really thin hand, you need to not only deny equity but get called by worse. And so in game, I was playing with the argument that maybe that applied, but it turns out that I made the right decision. So yeah, so they bet a small size. I actually bet, I think, a little bit smaller than this, so we'll just make it a little bit more like 6.43. Let's put it in big blinds and then see. They bet 6.2. So yeah, very, very small size. And yeah, so we called, and the turn is the 10 of hearts. And I think my student was curious why I checked on the turn here. And to me, basically, you should just have some good hands when you check. It's not like there is a particular category of good hand that is like a way better check or a way worse check. Like, if you bet queens, you get more equity denial, but you're also getting thinner value because there's less hands that are worse than this. So you get thicker value if you bet a set or 10-9. On the other hand, if you check a set, you have more equity, so you needed the denial less. Like, they're both sort of reasonable to bet. But basically, you should have some good hands when you check, because if you, for example, never had a pair here, then either your opponent's always going to win on the river by bluffing, or they could literally value bet ace-king. So you just need to have some good hands when you check. So sorry, it's not like a more dramatic answer. That was just kind of my thinking in game. And, if you wanted something a little bit fancier, I would say that probably players don't really expect you to check queens here. So you have a little bit of like a disguised range slightly on the river. And so if we look at facing check, I mean, their checking range is pretty self-explanatory. You don't really expect them to check queens, kings, or aces here very much. Aces maybe a little bit. And then, mostly their range is going to be give ups, and then 10x that's playing some pot control. And so they check. We decide to check back. As you can see, the EV difference of this hand is, it's the same thing. I wasn't going to be able to tell you in game that this exact combo of king queen was the perfect combo to check back. I'd mostly be paying attention to whether or not I had a club. So we decided to check back this time. And then the river is the 8 of spades, and they check again. So they seem fairly capped at this point, but it is possible that they have some slow plays, right? And then also just thinking practically, like even if our hand is 100% equity here, it's possible that they just fold range facing a jam, right? If they had no slow plays here. So I just kind of went with the size that, made sense with my hand against like a computer, which would be like, it's a thin, greedy, but mandatory value bet. Like we beat 10x basically. And maybe we get called by ace king some of the time. Or maybe they somehow get here with like ace 9 suited, although I think that's unlikely. And then we face the jam. And the jam sucks, and this is what good players do to you. They take your hand that was worth a certain amount of EV as a bet, certainly had more than half pot share, and then they turn it into a $0 hand. And I didn't really know from an exploitative perspective whether this spot was going to be underbluffed by this player or overbluffed by this player. They could have played pocket nines this way. If they were getting really, really fancy and goofy, I don't have enough information to know. The size kind of makes sense with top set, right? Like just please raise me, please float wide. Or they get to the turn with pocket tens, they decide to trap, or they bank pocket eights on the river. And I would make it a little bit less likely, but possible that maybe I have a kind of an image that I'm gonna kind of spew, and they did this line with kings or aces or something. But yeah, overall, kind of more weighted towards sets. And obviously we double block queen jack suited, but I think at the end of the day, that's not that important. Like, okay, we block queen jack suited, but then we unblock all the sets. So like, what do you want to do? Mandatory calls here are going to be all the sets, 10-9, maybe pocket kings if you think that chops sometimes. And then other than that, like it's all kind of the same difference. So, they check. And yeah, so we've got two sizes on the river. We've got jam with our sets, and then sometimes sizing down with hands exactly like queens. We went small, which we're always going to do with queens. And, I don't know what his range looks like at this point. Like this is a pretty obscure node. We started with the sizing on the flop that the solver's not using. So, this could be completely different than what his range looks like in practice. He could be always shoving these hands. He could never have these hands in range. He could be shoving really thin for value. He could be really nitty here. Like I just don't have a read on this player. So they jammed, and all of my hands suck. Everything here sucks unless I have a set. I would probably play pocket nines and pocket tens exactly this way. I'd probably be pretty tempted to bet 10-9 suited on the turn. I would get here with queen jack of clubs. Because that hand would really not want to face a jam if it bet the turn. Yeah, that's kind of it. So I decided to randomize. I don't know what frequency I decided I would call. I think I probably did say like 1 in 3 or something, because he gave himself a really bad price on a bluff. And we just decided to fold that time. So this hand is going to haunt me because they could be way out of line here, and I'll have no way of knowing, but that is poker for you. So hopefully that answers the student's question, and I hope you guys enjoyed the hand. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the YouTube section, and take care and have a good rest of your day. Okay, bye.